Hello everybody. So this week for our vlog number 3, we are discussing the 7 principles of making a marriage work with Gottman, as well as discussing some of the marital categories of problems that are mentioned in chapter 8. So in chapter 8, they mentioned 2 different types of problems that may arise in a marriage. So then there's perpetual problems and then there's solvable problems. Now, marriages may have both. They may overcome these differently or handle these situations differently. So just because perpetual problems may exist in a relationship doesn't mean it's exactly doomed or that divorce is looming on the end. It's all about the tactics of how we go about these things and our perspectives, which is going to be talked about a lot during this chapter. So with perpetual conflict, this is something that is always being brought about, and it's being handled in a very negative way. So Gottman refers to this as gridlock. So this is, instead of trying to cope with something effectively, both people are just stuck in their positions and they are unwilling to budge every time this issue is brought up. Very commonly, like in the book, is mentioned like wanting a baby. One party may want it, the other one doesn't. Where this may lead to gridlock is where both parties are unwilling to compromise, unwilling to see each other's sides, and it becomes much more of a deeper attack than, okay, it's us versus the problem. And then in the contrast of that, solvable problems is the other category. So solvable is, instead of us having gridlock and being against each other and taking very personal attacks, this is the perspective of it's us against the problem. So in the book, Gottman talks a little bit about it and then brings in a questionnaire of different situations, and you decide if it's solvable or perpetual problems. And so one that really resonated with me was a couple. Obviously they had been married. One party's responsibility was to take out the trash, and due to a big deadline, whether that be work or school or any other area of life, with this deadline coming up, they were perpetually forgetting to take out the trash or dust or clean up the dishes, whatever their task was, in which it was negatively impacting the other partner, and it was either on the partner's responsibility to complete this task or to leave it, and then the house was getting an odor. So this is obviously something that's very solvable. Communication is key in these areas, and really going about this, seeing that it's both parties of the marriage against the problem. And really, I thought about this from another perspective of you can't always give 100% every day in and out in your marriage. And so it always is a 50-50. So, I bring in my 50%, my husband brings in his 50%, and we conquer the day together. And in some days, if I'm not feeling up to that 50%, I might say I can give 30% today. It falls on the other person to help with that, so then they can give 70% in a day. That helps eliminate a lot of those solvable problems that have been mentioned in our text for this week. But I think this was really a good way to react not only to my own marriage, but to previous relationships, or kind of evaluate other people that we may know. So talking about, like, there's a questionnaire in there for people to fill out together. Then an overall assumption that I've made based on the readings and based on what I've seen of the perpetual and solvable problems is making sure that nobody is essentially right. There's never a right or a wrong party. And in these negotiations of these core concepts, like talking about babies, talking about daily responsibilities that we may have, that there's never a right and a wrong. It's always meeting people where they're at. And then basing it on how we can actively respond to this. So that was all. That was my take on the 2 marital problems that were brought up by Gottman in his text for this week. Thank you all so much for watching. Bye.